Of the John Fredericks Media Network. John, Jack, and Nate. Three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J. Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
For entertainment purposes only.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 37 of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Picks Show on this lovely Saturday morning in Tunica, Mississippi on April 15th, 2023. I am your co-host, Jack Fredericks, editor of GodzillaWins.com, alongside my father, the Godzilla of Truth, John Fredericks. We are here with our esteemed panel of perfect sports predictors from the Godzilla Wins universe today, a little different than our normal panelists. We're very excited. We have Trent Connor, UFC and NBA contributor to Godzilla Wins, will be joining us for the first hour to talk UFC and NBA. And then Dan Angle and Donnie Diamond, both senior MLB contributors, will talk some baseball with us a little later in the show. And of course, as always, senior contributor to Godzilla Wins, the degenerate we all know and love, Nate Perry. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Oh, yeah. Everybody seems super locked in. Very exciting. Okay. We have an absolutely packed show for you today. For the first half hour, we're talking UFC Kansas City. Then at 9 a.m., we're going to preview the NBA playoff games after the play-in tournament ended last night. And then finally at 9:30, we'll chat about why the Rays are so good and make some rapid fire MLB predictions for Saturday and Sunday baseball. You will not want to miss the greatest show ever created in the history of man right now. Okay. Let's go ahead and start here with some UFC. We've got Trent Connor, who you can go to GodzillaWins.com. Trent every week puts out his best UFC main event prop bets, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. And then we'll talk about the main event as well. Nate Perry, always locked into the UFC, will be with us as well for that. So, y'all, I'm going to start with Trent here. We're going to start with the co-main event, Edson Barboza versus Billy Quarantillo. From a betting perspective, both of y'all are pretty locked into that aspect of the UFC. Trent, what do you see here? What do you like from the Barboza Quarantillo co-main event?
Well, Quarantillo is out of the rankings. This is his way to get into the rankings against Barboza, who's a longtime vet. He's fighting lightweight, now is in featherweight, and his chin hasn't held up there from all the weight cutting. So Billy Quarantillo might be able to maybe catch him, but he's more of a pressure guy. He weaponizes his pressure and his cardio. And as the fight goes, he gets better. So unless Edson gets him early, I think Quarantillo probably gets the decision.
Okay, Nate, let's talk odds real quick. Give us some of the odds for Barboza Quarantillo if you have them up. Yeah,
so Barboza's a little bit of an underdog. Kind of like Trent intimated. Barboza's plus 140. Quarantillo's plus or minus 165 for this fight. So, not quite as lopsided as some of the things we've seen, recently. It feels like we've been doing a lot of fights that are like ridiculous odds. But that's actually makes sense. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 125, under 2.5 rounds, minus 105. So be clear there. And this is just a 3-round fight, right, Trent? Yeah, it's 3 rounds. 3 rounds. Yeah. Okay. So nobody's expecting a quick knockout. It doesn't look like.
Okay, so let's talk about the chin here of, I believe, Barboza. Trent, what are you expecting as far as his chin goes and how long he can last in this fight?
So he's more of a power guy. He lands power shots. He has really powerful kicks that he uses those kicks a lot. But he tends to fade in fights, which is the opposite of Quarantillo, which he gets better as the fight goes. And honestly, he's a good live bet because he gets down early a lot,
which Barbosa could jump out to a hot start. But as he fades and gets more tired, Quarantillo is going to be there at the end of the fight. And he doesn't necessarily have the knockout power to get Barbosa, but he can do it if he accumulates shots over the course of 3 rounds.
So Barbosa fading, is that a cardio issue? We're going to talk a lot about cardio in the Holloway fight.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a cardio issue, but it's also he throws kicks which exert a lot of energy. So and he's got really powerful kicks, so he throws everything he has into these kicks.
There's also quite a bit of miles on the tire for Barbosa too, right? He's 37. He's had a lot of fights.
Right. Yeah, he fought at lightweight for a long time, and this is like his 4th or 5th fight now at featherweight. So yeah, he's definitely. I think he's 37 years old. So he's at the end near the end of his career.
I think I read, and I think this is Barbosa, that the drop to featherweight hasn't exactly been kind to him.
No, the weight cut I think is a little too much for him.
Yeah. So Barbosa, the underdog here, Quarantillo, kind of the heavy favorite. Trent, when you say Quarantillo gets better in the fight, what exactly do you mean? Is it just that he's feeling out his opponent? It just takes him a while to kind of get comfortable in the octagon, or is this just part of his strategy where he likes to get deeper into the rounds and then really attack?
Yeah, I think it's more of his strategy. He's got tremendous cardio. He never goes away in fights, even if he's getting the crap knocked out of him. He's still there. He's willing to take punishment, and he never stops moving forward. He's always in your face, putting pressure on you.
Interesting. So Nate, is there, Trent mentioned this earlier, is there a live bet potential here for Quarantillo if he kind of gets down early because Barbosa's pressing? Should we be looking at that, or is this just chalk?
I think that Trent's probably right. There probably is a live betting opportunity. I mean, my sort of instinct, like looking at this, was I kind of like Barbosa. Just in a 3-round fight, you figure he's going to win at least the first round, which puts a tremendous amount of pressure on Quarantillo to win the next 2 in order to pull this thing out, provided it goes the distance, which it probably won't. So I sort of like just Barbosa as an underdog. So if you're doing it that way, probably bet Barbosa before the fight. Otherwise, the odds are probably just going to go down after that if he does sort of dominate the first round, like it seems like he could.
Okay. So is there any interest in an under 2 rounds sort of prop? Barbosa, Trent, you said he lacks sort of the knockout punch, but he does have heavy hands. Any interest in kind of trying to catch some of that plus money?
Yeah, Billy Q is definitely one of the harder guys to put out, but he has been knocked down before. I think he's been finished. So it's definitely a possibility. But now, given Barbosa's fight style, I think Quarantillo could implement his wrestling and his grappling and kind of stall Barbosa, wear him out a little bit on the ground, kind of extend the fight a little bit. So I would personally take the over, but it could go either way. Barbosa could definitely catch him with a head kick.
Okay, so looks like we like the over here. Seems like Nate likes the over too. Thinks it's going to go the distance as well in this co-main event between Edson Barbosa and Billy Quarantillo. Let's round out this fight just real quickly so we can get your picks in. Trent, in this fight, who are you taking?
I'd probably take Billy Q money line.
Okay, Billy Q money line. Nate,
yep.
You're looking at Barbosa, little underdog bet.
Yeah, I like Barbosa as a dog here. Yeah.
Okay, so that's our co-main event. Thanks, guys. Edson Barbosa versus Billy Quarantillo. We're going to talk for about 20 minutes about the main event, Max Holloway and Arnold Allen. But first, Dad, we want you to tell us all about one of our sponsors who we could not do this without, Birch Gold.
Well, I tell you what, I've got one of my sons here, and Jack, and the whole thing is you got to take care of your family. And whatever you're doing, look, I've been in some tight spots. Everybody knows that, Ann and I. And I'm not going to let what happened to me in 2008 happen again. That's why I've diversified the hard work that we've done for our retirement. We've diversified, Ann and I, and we're protecting our savings. So we're in precious metals. We're in gold and silver. And mom thinks silver is going to go up because she thinks manufacturing is coming back to the US and they got to buy silver. And gold is up now over 2,000. I bought it at 1,700. You got to talk to your financial advisor. But here's the thing. If you've got a 401k, if you got a pension plan, if you got an IRA, don't let yourself get caught in a complete meltdown and get wiped out like happened to me in 2008. So you can get all the information you need. All you have to do is text Godzilla. That's me to 989898. Text Godzilla to 989898. Birch Gold, the only company for precious metals that I'm going to ever do business with because their service is fantastic. Their rates are great. They're going to send you a 20-page info kit. Look it over, talk to your financial advisor. But you want to protect your family? I got to take care of my family. That's my whole thing. And that's why we've diversified. But get the information and then you decide, no obligation, free info kit, Godzilla. Text it right now, 989898. You're going to get a free info kit. Look at diversifying your portfolio so that your retirement is going to be there both for yourself and your family. Birch Gold, only company that I'll do business with. Godzilla, 989898. Do it now.
Thanks so much, Dad, for the Birch Gold sponsor. We're always happy to work with them. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen, UFC Kansas City main event fight. Nate, before we get into the prop bets, tell us just odds-wise, money line, what's the odds in this fight?
Odds-wise, we are looking at Max Holloway minus 155. Arnold Allen is plus 135 as a slight underdog. If we go to the total rounds, we are looking at over 4.5 rounds is juiced up a little bit to minus 135, and then under 4.5 rounds is plus 105.
Okay. So, Trent, every week you provide for Godzilla Wins your prop bets for the UFC main event. You can go to GodzillaWins.com, click on the MMA tab, and you'll see Trent's prop bets for the UFC main event fight there. So, Trent, go ahead and tell us what you like in this fight. Actually, before we do that, since we got time, Trent, can you just preview the style of both fighters for our audience who might not be as locked into Holloway and Arnold? And then we'll move to the prop bets. So we'll just kind of talk a little bit about what these two do and how they win. Go ahead and give us a little bit of a preview of that.
Yeah, so Max Holloway is probably one of the best boxers in the UFC. He offers a lot of volume. He puts out a lot of shots, a lot of feints. He's always pressuring you. He's always moving forward. He's hard to beat in a point fight. You're not going to outpoint him. And Arnold Allen's more of an all-around fighter. He's got pretty good wrestling. He's got power shots. He's got good boxing, which he showed in the Calvin Kattar fight, which was his last win. But he's never really been tested at this level before. So Max Holloway is definitely going to be his hardest test.
Let's talk a little bit about getting tested at the highest level, because one of the things about Holloway that we know is that he's an incredible fighter, great boxer, been working on his grappling, but can't seem to break through when he fights the champion, the sort of, the Volkanovski fight, some of these others. So Trent, just tell us a little bit about, why can't Max Holloway just break through? Is it the grappling? Is it a mental thing?
In the first Volkanovski fight, it was a bit of the wrestling, but in the latter two fights, he actually held up pretty well wrestling wise against Volkanovski, but Volkanovski had a speed advantage, which really doesn't happen to Max Holloway a lot. He's usually the faster fighter in the stand-up, and he just wasn't against Volkanovski.
Yeah, he is an incredibly fast fighter. Cardio is, I think, his calling card. And when you watch him fight, I mean, we talked about he lands so many strikes so quickly. He loves to sort of pummel you in this whirlwind of boxing. And he also has an incredible reach, even though it's not like his reach is Tyson Fury-esque, but the way that he throws those strikes, it's like he adds 3 inches to his reach every time he throws a strike. It's really impressive to watch. But he has had trouble breaking through to claim the belt. So now he's kind of seen as almost like a gatekeeper. Like, okay, you got to beat Holloway in order to get your shot at the belt, which I don't know. I guess I think for him, that's probably frustrating. So Nate, before we get to the prop bets, do you have anything? Maybe we talked a little bit about Holloway, anything about Allen's sort of style of fight? What's his keys to success here?
I think his key to success, and I think that this should sort of be like not totally overlooked, is that Holloway seems to have struggled with southpaws. Allen is a southpaw, and some of Holloway's losses, like particularly these notable ones against Poirier and Conor McGregor, they're both southpaws. So I think that like watching the southpaw angle is something to definitely consider, just because it seems like he struggled him in the past. But at the end of the day, I mean, Max Holloway's still really good, and Arnold Allen hasn't fought anyone like him. So I still sort of lean Holloway, even with that sort of like, nugget sort of in the back pocket that he has struggled against lefties sometimes. I mean, Holloway just throws so many more punches. I mean, right? He's probably going to outthrow him like 2-1, which just makes it so hard to keep up like on a scorecard, especially if this fight goes the distance, which the odds suggest that it probably will at over 4.5, minus 135. It certainly looks like the sports books are thinking this fight, goes the distance. So if that's the case, I mean, it just feels like a really hard fight for Allen to win, just based on the fact that he's just going to throw half as many punches. So he better be pretty damn accurate, or he better put him down, because otherwise I just don't know if there's a path.
So let's talk before we get to the pathway for victory here. Trent, what are some of the prop bets that you really like in this fight?
Max Holloway by decision is probably my favorite prop bet. I don't see how Allen really deals with his pressure. So, and they're both very durable fighters. Like I don't think either of them have been knocked out in their career. So I'd expect it to go the distance. It's Max Holloway getting the nod from the judges.
Okay, and do you have the odds on that?
Yeah, it's plus 185 now.
Okay, plus 185. Any other prop bets that we could maybe consider just for fun?
So you like the 185, Trent, in the so I want to get this clear. You like the 185 for the knockout? Is that just knockout, or is that a specific round?
No, it's Holloway by decision plus 185.
By decision. Okay,
by decision.
185.
Yeah. Some of the other props, the over 4.5 rounds is a fairly safe play at minus 135. Like I said, both of these guys have not been knocked out in their career, and I think the last 7 Max Holloway fights have gone the distance. So I wouldn't expect anything different here. And then another one would be fight to be won by unanimous decision. Yes, plus 120. Arnold Allen really hasn't had anyone pressure him the way Holloway is going to pressure him, so we don't know how he's going to react to that pressure. And I think Holloway can get the majority of the rounds.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit then about going the distance, because I believe that Arnold hasn't gone 15 minutes, or definitely doesn't average 15 minutes. Holloway does. Is there real concern that Allen is just going to sort of run out of gas here after the 3rd or 4th round, especially trying to keep up with the speed with which Holloway fights? Nate, we'll throw to you first.
So we're talking about the Arnold
going the distance.
Going the distance. I mean, I think that going the distance makes a lot of sense here. Although I was kind of looking at some of these props, some of these round by round props, and I mean, if you think that Holloway is better conditioned, right? He's more used to fighting these championship round fights, these championship rounds in 4 and 5. Then maybe you start looking at, like round by round props, and then you're like, well, Holloway in round 4 or 5 is like pretty fun. I mean, those odds get like pretty exciting pretty fast. I don't know if Trent has any opinions on this, but like Holloway round 4 is like, plus 1,800, and round 5 is like 2,500. So I think you could do worse than if you think that Holloway is just going to out cardio him. And we have some questions about whether or not Arnold Allen can go the full distance. Then like you start thinking like maybe Holloway just, sort of just cumulatively just puts so much on him that like 18-1 or 25-1 to finish in round 4 or 5 is like kind of a sexy bet.
25-1 is how I would consider pretty exciting, pretty fast. I mean, I can talk myself into a lot of 25-1 wagers there.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. I mean, those are the odds we like. Sometimes you bet in UFC, you're talking about it. It's just chalk. It's, oh, this guy's minus 220, but he's 900-0. So it's kind of nice sometimes to see a little bit of plus money. Trent, why is it that those odds for Holloway finishing in the 4th or 5th round are so high? Is it just because he just likes to go the distance? He's not really a finisher.
Yeah, he's never really been known as a power guy. He has power. He is capable of knocking you out, especially like Nate said, with accumulation of shots. But he doesn't look, he always stays composed when he's in there. He never pushes for a finish the way some of these other guys do.
Yeah, that's true. And one of the things that you kind of, if you watch even just casually, if you watch a lot of UFC, is you tend to, if a fighter gets knocked out early, then or if a fighter's going to get knocked out, a lot of times they get knocked out early. But when they are submitted, a lot of times they can be submitted in the 4th or 5th round or the late 3rd round because they're tired and they finally get to the ground, and all of a sudden they can't defend the way that they were, especially in a fight like this. So I guess my big concern would be Holloway's grappling, but he moved gyms. He says he's been working really hard on the grappling. Seems like if he can shape out the grappling, he can be one of the best in the featherweight division, or we're strawweight, right?
Featherweight.
Featherweight, right? That's right. So there's, I don't know. I mean, 25-1, super, super nice, but it's 25-1 for a reason. So, Holloway's not usually one
you
to
guys just
finish
don't
a
like
fight
fun.
in the 4th round. No, we don't. Well, we want to win. Dad likes fun. He'd probably take that 25-1. He'd be all right with that.
I've written it down. I'm gonna bet 20 bucks
Yeah.
on that. I'll take a shot.
All right, there we go. There he is.
I don't bet
right.
UFC, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. In fact, I'm going to DraftKings as soon as the show's over, and I could take a shot with 25-1. I don't even know how the thing works, but
Good time, guys. Me and John.
Nate seems compelled here to do the 25-1 deal. So what the hell, right? You take a shot, you win $500 for your $20 bet.
Yeah, my claim to fame in UFC handicapping is Alexa Grasso at like 6-1 when she won the title. And I mean, I'll never stop talking about that because you never get those types of odds. Those types of odds never cash in a main event fight. But I took it because I thought, well, 6-1, like, I mean, it's a main event, anything can happen. And of course, she won that fight, and I just thought I was a genius, and I should have drove Tunica, put a little bit more on it. But I did not. So, okay, let's then get into just the money line, who we like in this fight. Nate, I'll start with you. Is Holloway the play here? Does Allen have a path to victory?
Ultimately, I think that Holloway is probably the play. I think that Holloway's the play for all the reasons that we've talked about, right? The superior cardio, has been in these big moments before. Do we have a little bit of questions about him because he's sort of, not looked quite as good in his most recent fights? Sure. But ultimately, I still think he's probably a step up for Allen. So I'm willing to lay a little bit of juice with Holloway here.
Okay. So Nate going with the chalk. Trent, any thought to the underdog, or are we all just going with Holloway here?
No, I think Holloway is the right play. Allen has a lot of question marks around him because he's never really been in a 5-round fight. And Max Holloway is he would be the champ of this division if Volkanovski wasn't there. He's that good. He's probably one of the best featherweights of all time. And it's a large jump up for Allen here.
If Holloway wins, does he get another shot? Like, how many more shots can he get at the title or of this upper echelon fight? Like, or is he just always going to be pummeling these guys who are trying to get a title fight?
I think he
Probably
does. I think
We'll
he
go with
does
Trent
get
then.
another title shot if he does win, because he beat Yair Rodriguez in his last fight, who is now the interim champ and will fight Volkanovski. So he's still beating the best guys other than Volkanovski.
Yeah, Volkanovski really has his number. Nate,
Mhm.
what do you think? You think he gets another shot, or is he just?
I mean,
he's just
how
the
did-
litmus test?
So they've fought 3 times already. Like, I don't know. I mean, it feels like Holloway's best probably path to becoming champ again is that Volkanovski just moves up to lightweight all the time, right? That's pretty much
Yeah.
what needs to happen. Like, you just need to just vacate,
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there any reason why Yair Rodriguez was given the interim title and not Holloway, or is it just because Holloway keeps losing these big fights?
Yeah, Holloway, he's had 3 shots at it. They just wanted something different rather than going back for a 4th time. I mean, if Holloway earns the title shot, though, I think they give it to him for the 4th time, because the first 2 fights were really close. The 3rd fight wasn't so much, but
Yeah, they were definitely exciting fights, but then at the same time, like everything, you go in 3s and 7s. So you can either have give a trilogy fight 3, or you can have them fight 7 times. You can't have them fight 4 times or 5 times. After the 3rd time, I don't know. I mean, probably for UFC fans gets a little old, but you never know. You just really don't know. So it looks like both Nate and Trent like Holloway. Any last words on Holloway or Allen? Like, just if you're Allen's coach, Nate, like, what is the strategy here? Is it just you can't outlast him, you can't outstrike him. Do you just duck? I mean, is that the strategy?
Duck.
Like,
I think you have to be aggressive early.
Chuck and duck.
Because you know that Holloway's going to be there at the end of the fight. So I think if you're Allen, you know that you probably need to go out and probably land some big shots pretty early to try and slow Holloway down. I don't think you can just sit there and just, start slow. I think that Allen needs to come out fast. I think that's the most obvious thing that he needs to do to win this fight.
yeah.
Okay, so can we get your 3 guys, your picks to win this fight? Like, just Nate, Trent, Jack, just so it's clear for everybody. Your picks to win the fight, Jack.
All 3 of us are picking Max Holloway to win the fight. I'll make it easy for you.
You're all
There's
picking
nobody
Holloway.
here
Okay.
who's picking Arnold Allen.
All right. So I'm gonna bet.
So-
I'm
Go
gonna bet
ahead.
that 25-1 deal, and then I'm gonna bet Holloway. All right, I like this. I don't know
Okay,
anything
there
about
you
it,
go.
but I'm going with you guys. You
Yeah,
sound
that's-
convincing.
Yeah, that's definitely what we encourage, is to not know anything about the sport and then just load up. That's what DraftKings would encourage
Well,
you to
that's
do.
why
Yeah,
I
right.
tune you in.
No,
If-
that's why they're
if-
sponsored.
If I knew to pick on the fights, why would I tune you guys in? Right? Tune you guys in.
Yeah.
So that's why we got, all these listeners, because we want to know. So Holloway, and was it just so everybody knows, Nick, I got a good feeling about this 25-1 deal. Just reiterate that again. 25-1. What was that again?
Holloway in round 5.
So you bet Holloway
Yeah.
to win, and then you bet Holloway in round 5.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so okay. I'm doing that. I'm doing that now as soon as we get to the break.
Hopefully those cash for you so that you can take that and do a little bit more with the MLB stuff, because some of those MLB bets, which we'll talk about in 30 minutes, are a bit suspect, although you are up. So
I can't, you know what? I can't believe I can't
Here
believe you
we
said
go.
that. Okay. This is unbelievable. I'm
Mhm.
10-7 on the season. I'm up 80, 90 and 90. I'm up $185 and I'm 10 and you know how tough it is to win picking MLB 162 games. And so you guys are going to come on here and shade me, right? Throw shade when I'm the only guy that's winning. Unbelievable. You guys,
Yeah.
good thing I'm on this. Good thing I'm on this panel.
Yeah. Whenever you have something to do, it's going to be, I'm just going to make fun of you for 45 minutes. And I'll start. Yeah. So
Nate, what's my MLB record? Nate,
I think it's 10-7. I don't know. You have it in front of you. It's seared into
Yeah.
your memory. I just look at
10
it.
and 7.
Ignore it after.
Yeah.
10,
uh-huh.
10 and 7, up 180.
I just
Not
have
bad.
to fact check you. Like, I don't like commit it to memory. I'm just like, oh, did he actually
Yeah.
win these bets?
Right. Yeah. The creative accounting department and the John Fredericks gambling.
As head of the
tout.
fraud department at Godzilla Wins, I have to go back and go through your record every day.
Yeah, really.
Well, I post it every day. I got my record there every day. I post it every day. Unlike this other guy. Who is that guy that was trying to get on my radio show that we
is on the radio.
Booted him
show.
out. Who is that guy?
Oh. You mean I don't know. Well, we don't even really want to we don't want to say his name, but I don't know if he's as transparent. You know, a lot of times in this world, some of these guys just aren't very transparent. Some of them are. I wish you had a spreadsheet so you could be even more transparent, but it seems like the spreadsheet's in your head and we'll just kind of keep going that way. But speaking of transparency, Dad, why don't you tell us about Beard Vet, one of our key sponsors?
I put my Beard Vet hat on because I love this Beard Vet coffee, guys. I got my Beard Vet coffee mug. I got to send it to you guys. I forgot to do that last week. My good friend, Sean George, this is the best coffee you're going to find for the best price. And the thing I love about Beard Vet coffee, not only is it affordable and it's fantastic, but it's smooth. And they got the dark roast. They got the breakfast blend, which I'm having now. I go to dark roast in the afternoon. Thing I love about Beard Vet coffee is a portion of every dime they make. These guys give it back to veterans organizations, as without them, we wouldn't be here anyway. And they came to East Palestine with me. They gave away 1,000 boxes of coffee to people that were hurting. They didn't ask for anything, didn't want to promo, didn't want to sell anything. These guys are the salt of the earth. But their coffee, look, I drink 8 to 10 cups every day, 6 days a week. Not that much on Sunday, but I'm starting it here Saturday, my 3rd cup. And I love Beard Vet coffee. All you got to do is go to beardvet.com, beardvet.com. And Sean George, who is going to be our college baseball aficionado, is going to be with us starting us next week on our panel. So he's excited and he's a sponsor. You love coffee, do yourself a favor. You can see my cup here on Getter Live. Go to beardvet.com. There's no promo code because everyday low pricing. Go to beardvet.com. Have it one time. And if you don't love it, I personally text me, I'll send your money back. If you don't love it, I'll never send a dime back because you would call me up thanking me. Go to beardvet.com.
Yeah, one bet you're absolutely sure of. Everybody will love Beard Vet coffee. So
It's really good stuff.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So, okay, everyone, we are going to switch our conversation now to the NBA playoffs, which start today. We had an exciting week of NBA play-in games. Timberwolves punched their ticket last night. Hawks dominated the Heat, got in a couple days ago. We've got a really interesting set of games here. What we're going to do is we're going to preview both the Eastern and the Western Conference. So the way this will work, guys, is you can tell us just a little bit about maybe 1 or 2 matchups that you really like, or some of the futures bets to win the whole thing, or to win the Eastern or Western Conference, if you think that there's some good numbers on that as well. And we'll just kind of have an organic discussion about who we like in the NBA here. So before we do any of that, Nate, I'm praying you have this up because we haven't talked about it. Can you just give us the futures odds? If you don't have it, I do.
I got it up.
Okay. So futures odds, we'll just say to win the NBA finals, you don't have to list every team. That would be the most boring 2 minutes in radio history, but maybe like 3 or 4 that just pop out at you.
Yeah. So we have. Sorry, I said I had it up and then I had a different thing up. I had the playoff thing up. Jack, do you have it? Do you want to?
I have it up. So
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Milwaukee Bucks are plus 265. That's the clear favorite to win the whole thing. Boston Celtics plus 310. The Suns, who are the 4th seed, plus 425. That's kind of an interesting. They jump a lot of teams. Those are really short odds, but of course they have Kevin Durant. So the record doesn't exactly show the best version of that team. Warriors plus 900. Interesting. Then we get down a little further. Like, okay, one thing that's sort of odd to me, we've got 20-1 for the Grizzlies. They're the 2 seed. They're playing the Lakers, I believe. And the Lakers are plus 1,600. So just a lot of weird stuff going on here. The Kings, who have been really good, they have the most efficient offense in the NBA. They're 80-1. So a lot of stuff going on here. But of course, a lot of these odds tend to respect teams that have been there before, because these young teams that have never really been in the playoffs, like the Kings, and are just experiencing success, or the Grizzlies, who are pretty young, or the Cavs, another team that is a little bit younger, plays great defense. They're just, you can't respect those teams as much as you have to respect some of the teams that have been around for a while. So let's start with the Eastern Conference. Let's start with Trent. Then we'll kind of go around the horn here. What's 1 or 2 matchups that you're looking forward to in the Eastern Conference, Trent?
I think the Cleveland New York Knicks series is going to be an interesting one, because I think Randall is questionable for game 1 for the Knicks. So if he plays, I think New York is a pretty live dog there. Because Cleveland, like you said, Cleveland's a young team.
Yeah, so Cleveland is a young team, and the Knicks have been in the playoffs a couple times. A couple of years ago, they famously lost to Trae Young and the Hawks when we thought maybe the Hawks and Trae Young were going to be real contenders. That hasn't happened because of Trae Young's issues playing with literally anyone not named Trae Young at times.
Team basketball.
Right. Yeah. So the Knicks, kind of an interesting bet there. The Cavs do have the most efficient defense in the country. They play incredible defense, but they are young. They do have home court advantage, but it's hard to win in Madison Square Garden when you end up going to New York. So that's kind of an interesting one, that 4 or 5 live dog for that matchup. Nate, anything that pops out to you in the Eastern Conference? Any teams that you're really excited about?
Just to speak to the Cavs sort of Knicks matchup. I mean, I think that it's fascinating, and the odds are weird, right? Because I think that the Knicks sort of get a little bit more hype than the Cavs, but the Cavs are like, minus 210 in this series. So, I mean, I think that is probably the most fascinating matchup. I kind of agree with Trent but I kind of like the Cavs here just for reasons of depth. Like, the Knicks don't have a ton beyond their sort of starting 5. It seems like the Cavs are sort of a deeper, more complete team. So I do like the Cavs to sort of keep being sort of.
All right, I'm gonna go
way.
counter to that, Nate. I like the Knicks in this series. I don't like Cleveland. I don't like their inexperience. And
but how experienced is New York? Like, they've been like in the doldrums of like the NBA for like ever.
Yeah,
like
and
the
they
Knicks
can't get out of the first
did,
round of playoffs.
Teams that play great defense, and it all looks fine on paper, but then you got to put the ball in the basket, right? And the Knicks they're more seasoned, they're more experienced, they got more shooters, and yeah, I mean, you try to go deep in these playoffs. Well, you try to go deep in these playoffs with basically no depth in a 5-man rotation. That's my problem with the Phoenix Suns.
That's the problem with the Knicks.
Well, but it's only
no
one series. We're not picking to win to win the East, right? My pick to win the East. Look, there's only 2 teams that are going to come out of the East, and it's either Fear the Deer or the Celtics, right? One of these teams is going to be representing the East. But we're talking about one playoff series where the Knicks have 5 better starters, and that can go 6 games. Now they can't go beyond that because they get gassed in trying to win 3-7 gamers. But I like them over Cleveland in this one. So we're counter on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that you just got bored and went contrarian with that, because
for
months,
like listening to us talk.
Yeah, because for months you've been telling us that you had this reputation all over Georgia as like the most defensive-minded basketball coach in the history of Georgia basketball, which also wasn't necessarily true, but okay, I take your point. And you've been saying, okay, I love defense. Defense is my thing. And now you're like, oh, defense is boring. I need more offense. So that just, I don't know about that pick. Now
I changed my position.
You do that sometimes. Now I'm leaning hard Cavs because you went with the Knicks. I'm kind of just annoyed at that entire analysis. I like the Knicks. I mean, I really do. Julius Randle has been electric this year. They played really good basketball, but the Cavs do have the best defense in the league. And at some point, they're going to win a series. And then you just have to kind of worry about the Knicks getting out of the first round anyway. And it's not as though Cleveland's defense is like we're not talking like it's the Hornets. I mean, or offense. I'm sorry. Offensively, Cleveland is, a top 8 team in their efficiency rating, and in the net rating, they're second. I mean, this team, like, the more I think about it, Cleveland is not a bad futures bet either to get out of the East. However, as Dad mentioned, we've got the Bucks and the Celtics, who are going to be difficult to pass in that, and the Sixers, who have been there forever.
Yeah.
Like,
No, come on. If you're depending on Hardaway, if you're depending on that guy to get you to finals, how many? Look, as a Rockets fan, and I don't like, I can't stand the NBA anymore with all the woke stuff. Everybody knows that.
All right.
But I do watch the playoffs. But look, James Harden, are you kidding me? How many times this guy blew games in the clutch, one after the other, and then they get beat and they get upset, and he ends up in a Houston downtown club at 2 a.m. I mean, that guy is poison, and the Sixers are going nowhere with this guy, because at the end of the day, right? He's going to, in the 7th game, he's going to come up empty, just like he always does. I mean, if you believe in history, how can you bet this guy to win anything? He's the biggest disappointment to me of talent in the entire history of the NBA.
Oh, okay. Well, so first off, his name is James Harden, not James Hardaway.
Yeah, Harden,
Penny
whatever.
Hardaway
Right?
used to play
blocked him
basketball in the 90s.
after blowing so many Rockets games. I've blocked him out of my mind with the beard. I'm so sick of the guy. And what did he do he went to 76. He's always whining and complaining about something, but he doesn't win a big game. You got to win a big game, guys. Win me a big game and I'll believe. Lose every big game, I'm done with you. So I'm done with him. I'm done with the Sixers. I think they're smoke and mirrors.
I mean, you're not wrong about Harden's inability to show up in the playoffs. We can talk about that with Westbrook as well on the Western side with the Clippers. But I guess my thinking here is that Joel Embiid might win, or could have won, the MVP. He was definitely in the discussion. And I feel like Harden has sort of matured a little bit on this team to take a little bit of a back seat, be a little bit more of a facilitator. But Trent, when we're talking Sixers and Nets, is that a series you're interested in? Do the Sixers have a chance to advance, or are we just talking Bucks Celtics?
Yeah, I think Bucks Celtics is probably the team to come out of the East. Philly has a good squad, but I just don't know if you can rely on Embiid game in, game out to get it done in the playoffs when they face Boston or
I agree with
Milwaukee.
You. I agree with Trent 100%. I mean, you bet Philadelphia. Here's what you're doing. You're betting on guys who are not proven winners in big games. And that's the same thing goes with Embiid. I mean, Trent, you're exactly correct. Game in and game out in these playoff games. Is this the guy you're going to count on? Is Harden the guy you're going to count on? I don't think so. Look, I get back to what I said earlier. This thing is it's Milwaukee or Boston. One of these teams is going to win. So we'll go from there. But Milwaukee, look, Milwaukee is very, very tough. They're a very balanced team. They got depth. They got every. I mean, where's their weakness? I can't find it.
Yeah, last year their weakness was injuries because of Chris Middleton, obviously. They don't really have a weakness. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the NBA. And unlike the Nuggets, who people do not see as a true number one, everybody sort of believes that the Bucks are the number one seed. So the Bucks, very complete team, favorites to win the whole thing, definitely favorites to win the Eastern Conference. Celtics took care of business last year, ended up in the finals. Any thought to the Celtics, Nate, as far as a futures pick? I mean, I think we expect them to take care of the Hawks. I'm sure we expect the Bucks to take care of the Heat. I don't really even think those series will be very close. The interesting series are the Cavs, Knicks, Sixers, Nets. But any thought to the Celtics here? I mean, they did it last year. They haven't looked as good this year, but they still are the 2 seed.
I think, I mean, just staring at the odds here for Eastern Conference, I think that, I mean, so Bucks are plus 120 to win the East and Celtics are plus 150. And they're, the two sort of class of the Eastern Conference. Everything else after that is, almost 5-1. But I mean, just looking at them, they're so close in odds, but it feels like Milwaukee's so much like better that I think I'd be more inclined just to take the plus 120 than try and like get cute and take plus 150 with Boston. Is sort of how I'm looking at it. I don't think there's, if Boston's like,
well, don't you
plus 250, then like maybe you get a little cute, but like plus 150, I don't know.
Don't you think, Nate, if you think the Bucks are going to come out of the East like I do, right? And I don't think there's a Western team that is going to beat them. So don't you think a better play is instead of betting them at 120 at 265 to win the whole thing? I mean, that's the bet I made, because I think it's them or Boston. If they get out of the East, who's going to beat them? Phoenix? I don't see it. So I think the better play here, just me, is Milwaukee to win the whole thing plus 265.
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay, so Dad, Milwaukee plus 265. Coming out of the East, Nate, you have Milwaukee plus 120.
Yeah.
Trent.
Yeah, I think Milwaukee comes out of the East.
You guys are no fun. Look, I understand. I'm like the king of.
Yeah, let's go. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the king of losing losing these futures bets. I do it all the time because the 1 or 2 seed, the teams in the NBA that are usually the cream of the crop, end up in the finals. But I don't know. I'm always a believer. So I like 15-1 Cavs to come out of the East there. I love that. Plus 1,500, best defense in the country, young team. Maybe they get on a little bit of a roll here. I don't like the Sixers at plus 475 for reasons we talked about, but I'm going Cavs 15-1 out of the East, get on a little roll. I did this with Dallas last year and got my heart broken when they lost in the Western Conference Finals. They got destroyed. It wasn't even close against the Warriors. So let's go Cavs again. Maybe they win a series and I'll have a little bit of fun. So we're going to talk Western Conference in a minute here. But Dad, first, can you tell us a little bit about target trading and everything Patrick's doing at targettrading.co?
Well, we missed Patrick Asloan this week. He's a super analyst on our panel, and he's got the best stories, and he's also a personal friend of ours. He's just a great guy, former fighter. But target trading, go to targettrading.co. That's his futures trading company, and you get the whole training program there. It's very disciplined. Mom is in it. Ann has been in it for some time. She's doing very well. And he's kind of like me, full transparency. When they finally let somebody go live after the training, and you can basically start, there's no brick and mortar. You can work at your leisure. It's all online. But when they actually let somebody loose, then every week and every month, they give you a rundown right on the radio and TV of how many winning trades they had and losing trades they had, and the total amount of money won or made or lost by their students. And they have a consistent winning record. So a lot of people from my show have gone into the program, probably about 100 of them now, all of them successful. Not one complaint. Now it's hard work, but go to targettrading.co. See if this is right for you. It's a great second income opportunity. Targettrading.co. And Patrick Asloan there will take care of you. You mentioned Godzilla. You get 15% off your tuition. Targettrading.co.
All right. Thank you, Dad. So we got about 12 minutes. We got to do the Western Conference. I think, Dad, you're not giving enough credit to some of these teams in the West. We're going to talk about a couple of the teams that I think really have a shot. Let me run through the conference winner odds, just a couple interesting ones. So a lot of people like the Phoenix Suns because of the Kevin Durant trade. They're the most complete team. They're really the most dangerous team if they're all healthy in the playoffs with Chris Paul and everything else. They're plus 180. Warriors plus 350, given the respect of how well they do in the playoffs. We all know their history. Denver Nuggets plus 380, number 1 seed Nikola Jokic with basically nobody around him carrying that team. Lakers plus 650, been playing incredible basketball lately after the Westbrook trade. Grizzlies 2 seed plus 700 to win the Western Conference. Clippers, who now have Westbrook and have been playing better with Westbrook's been much better with the Clippers, 20-1. Kings 3rd seed. The Kings are the 3rd seed, guys, 28-1. They've been playing great all year. And then the mighty Timberwolves at 80-1 after the play-in game win last night. So really excited about the Western Conference here. Always locked into that. Let's start with Dad this time because he loves to talk. Dad, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you like in the Western Conference.
if you're looking for value, Sacramento is 28-1. I can't believe it. I mean, this is a team that it's just a balanced team. They're not flashy. They don't get on TV a lot. They play on the West Coast, right? People, I mean, the Kings have had their issues for a very long time, but this is just a solid, well-balanced club. They have a decent bench. You know, they're not flashy, but they just continue to grind out wins. And I just can't, I mean, they're getting no respect in Vegas. I mean, 28-1. I mean, here's a team. I mean, here's if you look at them right now, here's a team that won almost 50 games, right? They're only 5 games back of Denver for being the number one seed. They were up 5 at home. They were 25-16 on the road. So this team can play on the road. And it's tough. These West Coast teams going on the road, they go to these Eastern swings, you know, a lot of time on an airplane. Had that kind of record on the road. You know, I like them. I take a shot with the Grizzlies, but I think if you're looking for value here, Kings 28-1, I think they got as good a shot in this thing as anybody.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to throw it to Nate and Trent in a minute here, but we need to talk a little bit about the Kings because statistically they're kind of a darling, but sometimes when you watch them, it's a little bit of a more complicated story. So offensively, they're the most efficient team in the country, 118.6 in their offensive rating. Defensively, a little bit of a different story, not nearly as good. A lot of times with the Kings, you can make a lot of money betting those overs because they score a lot. But listen, they're 24th in defensive efficiency. That's crazy for a team that is a 3 seed. So offensively, you look at them and you think, man, they're the 3 seed. They win a lot of games. They got Sabonis. They're playing really incredible basketball. Their assist to turnover rate, they're number 2 in the country at that. Defensive rebound percentage, they grab a lot of boards. They're in their top 6 there. The issue though is they can't play defense. And when you start playing teams in the playoffs that you have to give so much more of an effort on defense. And it's clear that the Kings either aren't giving an effort or they don't have it figured out. They're not running the right sets because you have to fight through screens a little bit harder in the playoffs. You have to fight for more rebounds. You have to play with about 25% more effort than you do in the regular season. And I don't know if the Kings have that ability because defensively they just struggle so much. So I mean, the money there is good, but I'm not totally sure that the Kings are right for the right play here because the defense is just so bad. You don't have to have the best defense in the world to win the Western Conference, but you do have to stop teams like the Suns or the Grizzlies or the Lakers, the Clippers, some of these teams that can really score. So let's go to Nate. Any parting words on the Kings or another team that you really like in the Western Conference?
Yeah. So, I mean, my parting words on the Kings are, you're right. I mean, that's what I was going to bring up is, 24th in defensive efficiency. They allow opponents to shoot 37% from outside. They allow almost 54 points in the paint per game. Both of those are bottom 5 marks, just in terms of numbers. And I mean, it speaks volumes that they're a 3 seed in this, but they lost their season series to the Warriors, right? They lost in 4 matchups against the Warriors. They were 1-3. And the Warriors are minus 275 in the series to beat them, which is just, I mean, it speaks to, the seeding doesn't matter anymore in the NBA, right? And that's sort of been a thing that's been talked about. And it's clear here. The Warriors are a better team than the Kings. The Kings are fun. They're sexy because they, score all these points or whatever. But are the Warriors really a team that you want to get into a shootout with? Like right now? I just don't see them being that, like, it's a fun story, but I don't see them, really like pressing the Warriors here. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was going to
that's
to a different thing.
Yeah, that's a bad matchup for the Kings because the Warriors are notorious for moving the ball around. Their assists percentage is always super high. They cut like crazy. They never stop moving. They find the open man. And if you can't play defense, you're going to get outscored. And then, you've got a team that is experienced, a team that wins all the time in the playoffs against a team that's never been in the playoffs with this squad and has seen a lot of success, but maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it could be upset alert there too. why don't you pivot to another game, Nate? Then we'll get Trent and Dad back in the conversation and move on to some baseball.
Yeah. So here's my fun bet. So in February, I'm a pretty casual NBA fan. We talked about this, Jack. But I don't know. I was reading something about the Lakers. I don't even remember what it was. And it was like the Lakers are sort of like mired in just mediocrity. It was right around the time they traded Russell Westbrook for D'Angelo Russell. And I was, just sort of lively going through my William Hill. And the Lakers were 20-1 to win the Western Conference. And I immediately punched my donation in. So now I'm a huge Lakers fan, at least through the Western Conference, because 20-1 is awesome. Now they're like plus 650. So I figured it was just like a donation. I didn't even know if they were going to make the play. It was like kind of touch and go for the last couple of weeks, whether they were even going to be in the playoffs, or if they were going to have to play a play.
That was a good bet, Nate. I tell you what,
Thank you.
You've done that a couple times where you've seen something, just immediately jumped on it. A lot of us don't do that, but that was a pretty astute. That was a pretty astute bet, figuring 20-1. It's still the Lakers. They still got LeBron. So can we make picks to win the Western Division? And then I got a pick for tonight. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Before we move on,
real quick before we do that, Nate likes to go on here and tell you his futures bets that work out, but he's also accidentally bet like Super Bowl futures for like 2 years out.
That's true.
So it's when you're betting on the Super Bowl in 2024 and it's like 2021 or whatever. Those are not the bets that he brings up on the radio. So
that's just like buying a
I
lottery
keep to
ticket.
myself.
Yeah, you really got to read the ticket before you hit wage or whatever. Place wager.
I'm pretty sure this one's for this year though.
Yeah, well, you'll find out soon enough. Dad, go ahead and make your pick for the Western Conference. You can give out your pick for the day as well, and then we'll move around to Trent and Nate, and then we'll move on to some baseball.
Sacramento, 28-1. They're just going to continue to outscore everybody. Reason I like them here is the exact opposite of what Nate said, the exact opposite. They get by Golden State, they're going to win the conference. So you might as well get that over with, score your 120 a game, steal this thing in 7. And then I think they're going to be in good shape. But I got an NBA winner tonight. Ambush in Boston. Ambush tonight in Boston. I love the Hawks going in there +9. I love Quinn Snyder. He's going to draw something up big. Guy's one of the best coaches in the NBA. They played with them in the final game of the season, right down to the wire with, half their guys on the bench. I get the whole Trae Young thing. Okay. Team basketball, but I love Quinn Snyder coming into these situations. Boston's going to overlook them first game. It's going to be an ambush. I'm getting 9. Best bet tonight, Hawks +9 in Boston.
That's a horrible bet. Don't do that. But okay, Trent, go ahead and tell us who you think is going to win the Western Conference. Who do you like?
I'm going to go with the favorite in the Phoenix Suns. I think they drew a pretty good matchup in the first series against the Clippers, especially if Paul George doesn't play at all. I think they should get by them. And the Suns they have so many guys that you can just give the ball to and they can get a bucket. I mean, Booker, Ayton, Durant, Chris Paul, they got the stars. I think they can get by the West.
Nate?
It has to be the Lakers for me, right? I mean, for all those things that we just talked about, I just keep riding with the Lakers.
Keep riding with the Lakers. Okay. So I'm a Grizzlies fan and I have no faith in them this year with all the off-court troubles they've been having. They don't seem as locked in as they had in the past. I mean, last year I was all in, and then they struggled against the Timberwolves last year. I don't know. So I can't in good conscience take my team, the Grizzlies. So I'll stick with the Suns here, even though the short price is a little annoying at +180. I think the 4.5 to 1 to win the whole thing is probably a fine bet. Kevin Durant's done it multiple times. That team can get it done. So I'm going to go with the Suns as well. And we'll have to keep an eye on the Hawks Celtics game tonight, as the Celtics are on upset alert, apparently.
Upset alert.
Yeah, upset alert. There we go. So, okay. Before we get into baseball, which we're very excited about, Dad's got his Astros shirt on, even though they lost last night. Go ahead, Dad, and tell us about Ignacio and Ignite 45.
Well, here's the deal. Let me just get to one thing here so I don't get screwed up. Just hang on one second. Okay. So very simple. If you own a small business, like we do, if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting about a small business or you have a business, you've got to be in the social media game. You've got to be in the digital game. Here's what Ignacio Falco does at ignite45.com. He specializes in small business. And what they'll do is they'll do an evaluation, just like they did with us on Godzilla Wins. You give them all your social media coordinates. They'll look at your website. They'll look at what your objectives are. They'll look at your SEO. They'll look at Google. They'll look at Twitter. They'll look at Getter. They'll look at whatever you've got, Facebook. They'll do an evaluation and they'll say, okay, here's based on your objectives. Here's what we recommend you do. And they're set up for small businesses. And it's just a 2-person company. Iggy and his wife, these guys are digital professionals, but they love helping small businesses. And get the evaluation. Even if you don't do anything with it, it's going to help you there. And they've got different tiers of what to do. You can do it in stages based upon what your investment levels are. When you own a small business, go to ignite45.com, ignite45.com. Do it now. Check them out. And you mentioned Godzilla, promo code Godzilla. You're going to get $100 off your first order. Do the evaluation on your business. At least you're going to get another pair of eyes to look at it with some recommendations. And then you decide and you go from there. Go to ignite45.com.
Okay, thank you. We love Ignacio at Ignite 45. So very excited about the baseball commentary. Here's why I love this baseball segment, because I've got my father who thinks he knows everything about baseball. And then I have 2 of our Godzilla Wins contributors who actually do know a lot about baseball. We've got Dan Engel, who is locked into the MLB, cashed some tickets last night with the Rangers Astros picks. And then we have Donnie Diamond, one of our MLB contributors, baseball fanatic, absolute guru. And then, of course, as always, we've got Nate Perry. So I want to get into our picks today because I know you guys got a lot that you want to talk about. But first, listen, the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to start with Donnie. So you wrote an article last week, will the Rays ever lose? And you said, maybe, but maybe not. And then it went on for a while. I mean, 13-0 last night, or 13-0 until last night. Then they lost to the Jays in sort of a really weird game, a game they probably should have won, just on paper anyways. Why is this Rays team out to such a hot start, and does it matter?
Yeah, it definitely matters. Winning games is winning games, and over 162 game season, they add up quick. And think about giving yourself a 13 game cushion, and then you can basically play 500 baseball the rest of the way. And what does that look like? You're still on pace for like over 90 something wins, even if you just play 500 baseball the rest of the way. So the hot start definitely matters. And as I mentioned before in the article, they're not exactly playing the cream of the crop teams right now, but you got to beat those teams. You can't drop those games. That's what hurts teams later in the season when they're banged up or bats go cold or something like that, and they just drop these silly games, and it affects their standings. And the way that the playoffs are set up now, the higher seed you got, the better off you are. Save some of that pitching. Try to make it deeper in the rounds. And this Rays team it's like the epitome of everything that they've always done. They just happen to have a little bit more health, which is a little bit fading at the moment. But as per usual, they just have depth on depth on depth, and that's why they just keep winning these games. They're just interchangeable parts.
Donnie, when I read your article, I thought it was excellent. By the way, you can read Donnie Diamond, GodzillaWins.com. But watching the Rays, I agree with you. But one of the things that really, really caught me is that offense they've got is absolutely relentless. I mean, they never strike out. They're always getting the bat on the ball. I mean, they're out of the old Rays teams, were basically punching Judy or whatever. So that, everything was 3-1, 4-3, 2-1, 1-0. Now they hit. And if you look at the game last night, I bet Toronto got the win there, but I only won that game because they made 2 key errors on 2 double play balls, right? They make either of those double plays, the Rays win that game. So, and I got a lot of respect for Toronto in a lot of ways, but the Rays, man, and I can't wait till the Yankees match up because I hate the Yankees, as everybody knows. They're the ones really that started the whole cheating thing, complete conspiracy. They're the evil Yankees. Spend all the money, Garrett Cole, whatever. But I tell you what, this team, they're just relentless. And not for the 2 double play balls, Donnie, last night, one after the other, same inning. They win that game.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you touch on the 2 double play balls that end up costing them several runs. But you look at the rest of that game. They're playing the Toronto Blue Jays, who are also a very, very good baseball team. That's a ridiculous offense. And if you take out one bad outing by Poche, then you've got several. The rest of those, I think he only ended up getting. Did he even get an out in that game? I don't remember. But the other 2 pitchers who threw in that game for them, Chirinos and why am I blanking on who started that game? Rasmussen. Rasmussen had a tough outing, but his first bad outing of the year. But Chirinos came in after him and absolutely threw the ball fantastic. And that's just another testament to, how good that roster really is. And, in baseball, how much one bad outing can affect your entire game, because it is a team game. And, you take out maybe one of those errors and the really bad outing by Poche, and you've got a different ball game.
So I want to bring in Dan here then to talk a little bit about the Rays. Is there anything you see here? Like, will the Rays cool off? Is it just that they're playing bad teams, or is this really a team that we might think about as a futures bet to win the AL East? Because I haven't looked at the props, but I would imagine that futures bet, their numbers are still pretty good, considering the Yankees and the Blue Jays are probably superior on paper.
Sure. Yeah, I would say that the things that the Rays do well that probably are sustainable no matter who they play, they hit the ball well, as John touched on, and they run the bases intelligently coming out of the batter's box. This team leads in OPS over the next best team by almost 100 points. I think they're around 930 OPS. Let me double check that number. The Tampa Bay 920 OPS, and the next best team is the Dodgers at 827. So this team, when they're swinging, they're making contact with the ball, and they're usually putting it in a spot where they can get extra bases on top of getting a base hit. So this team does the little things well. They manage the game well. They almost never fail to put the ball in play. And in this day and age, when you put the ball in play, good things can usually happen, because so many teams are tied to the 3 true outcome strategy, and fielding mistakes are a part of the game now and pretty much always have been, but just haven't been emphasized to this amount. So the things that Tampa Bay does well, even though they're playing a soft schedule, they likely do translate against better teams.
Well, Dan,
I mean, that's.
Are
Go
you
ahead.
are you the writer that picked that bet Texas last night? Who was
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
So
me.
hold on.
Great pick.
Hold on.
By
Dad.
the way, great pick. You guys kicked my ass last night. I want to congratulate you on that. It was 3-0 in the third inning. Garcia didn't have crap again. Good pick. You got that one right.
Well, Garcia doesn't have much right now, because he's basically having to learn to pitch
Right.
almost entirely from scratch. I mean, with the
Right.
new rules, his delivery is now something that would get called a balk a fair amount. So
Yep.
he's pretty much trying to start over, and
It's going to
that's
take a
really
while.
hard to do.
It's going to take a while.
Yeah. So, okay. So I want to get into that conversation. One, I was tickled when Dan picked the Rangers, because I knew that was going to piss off my dad and that he was going to freak out, which he did. And I was even happier to see the Astros. I'm an Astros fan, but it's always fun to see him lose when dad gets really fired up, which is the state that he likes to stay in during baseball season. But I really want to. So Dan's argument in that article is basically like, listen, Garcia can't figure it out because of the rules. So this is, something where we can probably take the over. I know that missed, but he got banged up early. Now, Donnie, who has a lot of knowledge when it comes to pitching mechanics, Donnie, if you could just take us through, like, someone like Garcia, who's been pitching this certain way his entire life and now has to change. Like, how is it even possible for him to become the starter that he was prior to the rule change, or is this toast for him?
No, it's definitely possible for him to round back into form. He's a big league pitcher. The stuff is there. I mean, the ball that's coming out of hand for him it's still lively. It's still got good spin on it. He's still throwing the same quality of pitch that he is capable of. But his big thing is that deception in his mechanics, that he was able to really mess with timing with hitters. So is it possible? Absolutely. I believe it is. Is it going to be a really, really sharp learning curve for him? I think so. Because I mean, when you rely so heavily on deception in your mechanics, particularly before you're releasing the ball, you really got to reinvent yourself and try to find. For him, I'm gonna guess that he's gonna have to try to find some way of adding a little bit more deception into what he's got. Maybe a little of the hesitation at the top of the leg lifts and something like that. Because while he does have good stuff, it's not the 98-mile-an-hour fastball that you're just going to be able to throw by guys, and it's not the snapdragon curveball that's just going to disappear. It's good stuff, but it's in today's big league baseball, you don't want to say pedestrian, but it's a ridiculous era for what's coming out of the hands of these pitchers this year. So you really got to think that he's going to have a tough time figuring out how to get these mechanics back. But I have faith that, he's a big league pitcher. He knows what he's doing. The Astros organization knows how to get pitchers on track. And so I think eventually you'll see him round back into form. How long that'll take, hard to say.
Okay,
June.
so Leo,
June.
June probably. So Leo, I want to ask you one more question, then we'll move on. So let's say, imagine you're in the Astros, you're part of the organization, you're a pitching coach for the Astros, and you're like, look, guys, we got to get away from the banging the trash cans and everything else. We can't cheat anymore, so we have to actually teach everyone how to play baseball. You're working with Luis Garcia. You want to add a little deception. How would you coach him right now?
Personally, as I mentioned, the easiest way is to throw hesitations in your leg lift. It's the most controllable way to tinker with your mechanics, especially as, again, we're talking about big league pitchers. They're in phenomenally good shape. Their legs are incredibly strong. It's easiest to start at the base there, and then you're eliminating movement from the head, where that's where a lot of guys end up having control issues, is when the head starts moving around too much. But another simple way is look at your boy Johnny Cueto. He's got the whole shimmy shake, the shoulder turn. A lot of guys have been relying on the back to the hitter model of deception for a very long time because it works. It's hard to control because it does involve some head movement. But you look at guys who have been successful with it, like Johnny Cueto, like a Madison Bumgarner, where you see both digits and the full name on the back of their jersey when they're delivering the pitch, and that's a tough look for a hitter, especially when the ball is moving as much as he's capable of making the ball move. I personally would tend to lean that route with the horizontal movement that he features, the big heavy reliance on the cutter and the sweeping slider slurve type pitch. So I like the idea of adding a little bit of maybe shoulder turn, close them off a little bit, vary your timing as far as how quickly you're lifting the leg. If you mix in a slide step from your windup, those types of things, those are just easy, quick fixes. But personally, I think you might see him get a little bit more of that back to the hitter type deception.
Interesting. Okay, so we're going to get to some of Dan's prop picks here in a minute. But Dad, before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about Rosie's Gaming Emporium down there in Virginia?
Well, you guys are going, right? July 13th. Let me just start up. July 13th, racing. Wait till you see our racing show, right? Wait till you see that. That's going to pop July 13th. We're live at Colonial. I moved my whole operation, my entire radio and TV operation goes to our suite in Colonial Downs. There's no other guy in the media that does this Monday to Friday post time. It's going to be Thursday through Saturday, starting July 13th through September 9th. Jack's coming in and Nate, we're going to do a couple of our shows there. So you got to go to Colonial. You just go to rosiesgaming.com, get your tickets now. We're in suite 3. Don't want to miss that. My favorite time of the year Racing post time Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Colonial Downs. Most beautiful racetrack in America, better than Saratoga, which is my number 2 choice. Oak Lawn, Little Rock, number 3. Now, rosesgaming.com in Virginia, you got locations all over the place. Go to rosesgaming.com. Right now, they got a promotion, right? Sign up as a new Rosie's player. You're going to get between $25 and $1,000 in free bets right off the bat. Go figure it out. Go to rosesgaming.com, rosesgaming.com. And remember, July 13th, we're live at Rosie's in our suite. We got to get Jack and Nate there. We're going to do our shows there. You guys are going to be zoomed in. We're going to have so much fun. Go to rosesgaming.com, rosesgaming.com, a founding sponsor of Godzilla Wins.
That's right. Nobody bets the ponies quite like John Fredericks. Couple comments,
especially
here,
when I
John.
get hot. Especially when I get hot. I'm streaky.
We want to yeah, you are streaky, that's for sure. We want to thank John Doe is here for paying his phone bill. He says he's back on the show now that he's paid his phone bill. So we're happy to have him as a listener back in action. Okay. So Dan, we want to talk here a little bit about some props just for the weekend, whatever you have. What are some things that you're looking at for the MLB as far as prop bets or run totals?
All right. Well, something that jumps off immediately at me, Orioles White Sox under 9. Michael Kopech was sick during his first start, didn't look good at all the first time he took the ball. Second time out, he looked a lot better. I think he only gave up 1 earned run that second start. And he's facing Kyle Gibson, who has actually pitched pretty well to start this season. So this looks like a game where both teams are probably going to get good starting pitching, and I don't think the score is going to end up that high. So under 9 in that game. So next one that really caught my eye was Minnesota against the Yankees. Tyler Mahle to make it to the 6th inning. So to get at least 15 and a half outs, because this is an afternoon game. So the Yankees might not be running out on their best lineup, and New York's offense really does not have a plan B without home runs. The Yankees, I believe, are second in the majors in home runs behind the Rays, but their offense doesn't score that much when they don't get the ball out of the park. And the wind's blowing in from right field today in Yankee Stadium. And when the wind is blowing in on that short porch, it makes it a lot more difficult for the Yankees to actually execute that part of their offense. So I think Minnesota is going to get pretty good starting pitching and get their starter into the 6th inning today. Next up on my list, I got to go with the Mets team total over 5.5 because Oakland's pitching is just a disaster. I mean, pretty much the entire Athletics roster is a disaster this year, but Fujinami is barely getting anybody out. His ERA is already 17.55, and even though the Mets haven't gotten off to as strong of a start as they should have, that offense is too good to stick with how badly they've been performing to this point, and Oakland is the perfect tonic for them to get out of their slump. So New York Mets team total over 5.5 looks good. And then my last prop play out of Cincinnati, Graham Ashcraft over 5.5 strikeouts today. Ashcraft has looked pretty good against the Braves and the Pirates. He's already struck out 13 hitters in his first 2 starts, and Philadelphia does not put the bat on the ball well at all. The only team that strikes out more than the Phillies is the Giants. So as long as Ashcraft is able to throw a decent start, get into like the fifth, maybe 6th inning, he should have no problem getting to on this number against that Phillies lineup.
So, Donnie, what's going on with the A's pitching there? I know you're always locked into Oakland. That 17.55 ERA doesn't exactly inspire a ton of confidence.
Yeah. So A's pitching is what it is. They're thin. They're trying to make the most out of what they got. I have watched Fujinami twice now. Watched that start against who was that? I can't remember who his last start against was. But my takeaways on watching Fujinami are he's got electric stuff. And I think that 17.5 ERA is not indicative of the quality of pitcher that he can be. I think he's in short order going to be in the bullpen. And I think when they do move him to the bullpen, he's going to be a monster because the stuff plays. The stuff is absolutely disgusting. The fastball at the top of the zone, the split that just disappears, and he's throwing that split at something crazy like 93 to 94 or something. The stuff is real. It's just I don't think he's prepared to navigate lineups more than once. Because as soon as a big league hitter sees that, they can time it up. But seeing him once out of the pen, in a late inning situation after you've seen the rest of that pitching staff, which there isn't a whole lot of raw stuff on that A's pitching staff. So when you see him coming out, hopefully they find him in the back of the bullpen sometime soon, because I think that's going to be a good place for him. And I think they're really going to see him flourish, and it'll do good things for them as a ball club. But again, it's difficult with that A's pitching staff even getting the ball to the back end of the bullpen with a lead. So it's tough, man. It's a tough road to hoe with those type of tools in your shed.
Yeah, spoken like a true A's fan. I think he'll be good later. Not necessarily
right
right
before we
now.
trade him.
They're gonna put him in the bullpen.
Yeah.
He's gonna reel off like 5 saves in a row, and they're gonna trade him at his peak value. They're gonna
Well,
get
in
really
order,
bad
in order to get
prospects
it,
for him.
in order to get a save, you actually have to win the game, right?
Oh yeah, you do.
So
Yeah.
getting 5 saves, that could take them between now and August. I mean, that's just a pathetic team.
Exactly.
You look
but
at them
that's
and
right before the trade deadline.
just absolutely
Yeah.
pathetic.
Start now.
I tell you, the team that we always make fun of, but I think when Cruz comes back, they're a pretty exciting young team. Actually, is the Pirates. I mean, they got some decent young stars. They got some decent young players on that team. They're pretty excited. They got a legit closer in Bedmer, whatever his name is, played for USA. So we always make fun of the Pirates because they trade everybody away. But I saw them play 3 games, and we're buying a radio station in Pittsburgh, so I'm going to be right there to see them. But I think when Cruz comes back, this is an exciting young team. I think if I was betting futures, I think they got a hell of a shot at 500. I don't know what the win total is, but it's an exciting team. They're not the Pirates that we always make fun of.
I totally agree with you. They are not the same Pirates team, but losing O'Neal Cruz for I think it's like 6 months with the ankle surgery, I think that's going to hurt their chances at 500.
Yeah.
But I'm right there with you. I really like the young talent that they're starting to put together, and I think it was a really smart move to bring in veterans like Dick Mountain and Carlos Santana to try to bring those young bucks along, and then even bigger move to bring back McCutchen to bring back some veteran leadership and some of that winning Pirates culture to rub off on those young bucks and try to get them the good funk on their way up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got about 7 minutes. What I want to do is kind of run around the horn. I know all y'all probably have some picks. Before we do that, because I'm going to start with Nate, because it's been a while since we've heard from Nate. But Dan, will you very quickly, just for our listeners, run through your prop bets one more time? Just list them off for anyone who's interested.
Sure. So Orioles, White Sox under 9 runs. Tyler Mahle to make it into the 6th inning, so over 15.5 outs. Starting for the Twins today. New York Mets team total over 5.5. And Graham Ashcraft of the Reds over 5.5 strikeouts.
Thank you so much. Those are Dan's prop bets, and you can read all of Dan's MLB picks on GodzillaWins.com. He's absolutely locked in for us right now. Nate, Saturday, Sunday, what you got? You got some picks for us? Then we're gonna go to Dad. I know he's.
I always have picks. Dan sort of talked about this earlier, but I like the Twins in this game as a small underdog against the Yankees. That was sort of my first bet that I put in. Mahle's been pitching great. Herman's not. And I think that the Twins bullpen is better. So that's sort of like the first place I went to was like bet the Twins as an underdog. The other one that I like that we sort of have talked about too is I like Pittsburgh's a pretty big underdog. They open at like plus 200 and they're like been bet down to like plus like 175, 165, depending on where you are. But I like Pittsburgh today as well. I don't think Contreras has shown his best stuff yet this season. But he looks like he has sort of the makings of being sort of one of their stud pitchers. So that's sort of what I like for the Pirates. Obviously, like I don't, there's a reason they're plus 165. They're warts here with the bullpen. But but I still sort of like them to get out to an early lead and, hopefully just be able to just hand it to Bednar, and that's sort of the end of the game. So we don't have to get into the bullpen too much. So that's sort of like the biggest thing. Like those are like the two big sort of underdog money lines that I like. I have some other totals. I like Kansas City as well, but those are sort of my two big ones. That don't take up too much time.
Dad, what do you think?
Okay, I got a bunch of games today, and you're
I
going
knew
to
you
find
did.
them. I can't give you all of them now because I'm not done. But Saturday, big day for me. Normally, I pick one or two games. I got a bunch. Now, by the way, when you go to my Godzilla wins column that Jack and them put up every day, I got my picks. I got my record there. I got my totals. Everything is there, all complete transparent. Not like the millennials on this column that you never see exactly what they do. Right? Boomers believe in transparency. That's the key. I'm 10-7 so far this season, and I'm plus 177 based on $100 units in each game. We do a running total. Here's the way. Love today. I like the Giants minus 165 over the Tigers. Whenever I can bet against Detroit trying to win three straight, I'm all in. Plus the Tigers tonight have their Italian stallion going, Anthony DeScalafini. Right. I love Italian pitchers with 0.72 ERAs, 11 strikeouts, 12 innings. I like the Giants minus 165. I'm going to go with Philadelphia today over the Reds plus 110. Kind of the same thing. Reds they're not going to be winning three straight games. I like the Phillies in this game to finally start hitting plus 110. And then this evening, minus 190. I love the Astros and this Hunter Brown, which was lights out in his second start, 7 innings. I think he's one of the best electric young arms we got. Baker loves him. So I like the Astros tonight, minus 190. I have other picks also coming out about 1 p.m. Go to GodzillaWins.com.
Yeah, I can't stand Hunter Brown because he sucked in the playoffs last year. So he's on my fade list forever.
I know when Dusty brought him in against the Yankees, my son, I gotta tell everybody this, my son Jack went absolutely ballistic, bat crap, insane, crazy. I got 100 texts in like a minute and a half going. Every time the guy threw a ball out of the strike zone, Jack was texting me. His hair was on fire. They actually did win that game, but no help to Brown.
Yeah, no. I'm not a Brown guy. Never, not a McCullers guy. As far as Astros pitchers go, they don't deliver in the playoffs, and they make me angry. So Dan, give us some of your picks for today. Then we'll round it out with Donnie and end the show.
So I'm actually going to touch on that Rangers Astros game for a bit. And my play there is going to be Astros minus 1.5 first 5 innings. So I'm taking Houston to jump on John Gray in those first 5 innings because Gray isn't keeping the ball in the park very well. I do think the Astros will bounce back today. And I don't want to mess with that Rangers bullpen. I mean, Texas is showing that you either get them in the first 5 innings or you're not winning that game. So I don't want to take a chance on Houston possibly going cold in the final 4 innings and blowing that game. I think Brown does get the job done in the first 5 against Gray. So I'm taking Astros minus 1.5 first 5 and then getting out. So my next play is Nationals plus 1.5 against Cleveland. The Guardians have already played 7 1-run games. So this is a team that does not blow out its opponents when it wins. And the Nationals have been experts at keeping the game close. 3 of their past 4 losses have been by 1 run, and the 5th game in that 5-game stretch, they won. So if you're taking the Nationals on the run line, that's 4 out of 5 covers over the past few games. So I'm thinking Washington hangs around. Maybe they win it, maybe they don't, but I'm thinking that if Cleveland does win, it's going to be by 1 run again. And then finally, piggybacking off of that Mets team total over 5.5, I'm taking the Mets on the run line. Oakland, when they lose, they tend to lose pretty badly. Last night was 17-6 against the Mets, and the Athletics have just 1 win on the run line without actually winning the game. So unless you think the A's are going to pull off the surprise here, taking the Mets on the run line is the way to go, and it's the only way to get value out of this game.
I love that Astros minus 1.5 in the 5th inning because it means I can shut the game off and go cut the grass instead of having to sit around and watch baseball for 5 hours. So I do that a lot with basketball too. Bet the first quarter and then, go do something else. I'm a busy man. Donnie, I know you have maybe one pick here, and then we'll end the show.
Yeah, I really only have one pick that I feel strongly about, and it's the Sunday getaway day game between the Royals and the Braves. I love the Royals here. We got Zach Greinke versus Kyle Wright, and I think a wily veteran Zach Greinke, who is always phenomenally fun to watch, is going to capitalize on a likely, probably getaway day type lineup for the Braves. May not see all of their stars in that one. Not as exactly an important game for them, although as we touched on, all games are important. But I absolutely love this Royals team for a couple reasons. I love Greinke on the mound. You got to love that. Still getting it done at whatever 100 years old he is, and flopping in every ethos pitch that you could ever want. And I actually really like this young Royals roster. They have some super exciting young talent, Bobby Witt Jr. In the pass squatch with Vinny Pasquantino, and a lot of speed. They're not dissimilar from the Rays in the way that they constructed their roster with all that speed and athleticism, but they just don't have the same kind of depth or quality of pitching top to bottom as the Rays. So, like I said, I really like this Royals team. They're fun, and I think that they're a nice dog in this game as well.
Okay. So Leo's got that one pick for you. Now, I want to thank our panel here. Incredible show. Trent Connor with the UFC and NBA, Dan Angle and Donnie Diamond with some this was an incredible baseball segment. It was just really solid. We had a lot of fun here. Nate Perry, as always, and my father, the Godzilla of Truth, who is going to take us out today. So we were a little bit over, Dad, because it was so much fun.
Too much fun to have. We'll see you next week, 8:30 to 10. Don't forget, go to GodzillaWins.com. Every single day, we got great content up there. My son, Jack, managing partner and the editor, doing a fabulous job. All of our panel here, key writers, go to GodzillaWins.com. And I'm getting so many positive feedback. So you guys are doing an incredible job. You put together a great stable of writers. We're a growth company, and we're having a lot of fun. So go to GodzillaWins.com. You can sign up there. We got a $5,000 giveaway. You can sign up for the newsletter there. No obligation. Comes out every day. You get your picks. A lot of fun. I'll see you guys next week, 8:30 a.m. to 10 on Godzilla Wins across the John Fredericks Media Network. Get her live. Coming up next, you're in the War Room with Stephen K. Bannon.